I often get accused of being a UConn homer, which does make me laugh as the fan base I think I irritate the most at times is UConn fan. The video where I accused Paige Beckers of being selfish by not being selfish, that one sticks out to me. As well, when I called UConn the Dallas Cowboys, that seemed to really irritate people. But in this video, I can assure you I am going 100% homer, and that is not for UConn. That is for the Australian Opals women's basketball team that will face off against the United States in a matter of probably about 24 hours. But I thought I would do a video just to give you some background on this Opals team, as I think you will find it very interesting, as they have a very much a Andy Dufresne type story, as they have gone through a lot of S and seem to be coming out the other side regardless of how they go against the US in the semifinal game. What they've crawled through, well, first it started in Rio where they lost to Serbia in the quarterfinals. Now they obviously avenged that 2016 loss by beating Serbia last night in Paris. But even bigger than that, this is a team that's been held hostage by a star player, Liz Cambage, as famously their 2020 or 21 Tokyo Olympic campaign was destroyed when Cambage left the team just days prior to the start of the Olympics, following a nasty little fight taking place when they played Nigeria in a warm-up scrimmage for the Olympics. Now, I am not going to go into all the details of that. If you want to know all the details of that, I've done this video right here, which outlines what transpired over the course of her career and with the Opals. The only thing I will mention is how Basketball Australia, it was really embarrassing. After what's transpired in the Olympics, they tried to wash it under the table and offered her a chance to come back to the team, which they never should have done. Thankfully, Liz said she had no intentions of ever playing for the Opals again, which gave them a chance to move on with a fresh start. And for the World Cup in 2022, two new faces on the team would be crucial. One was longtime star Lauren Jackson, unretired and returned to basketball. And it wasn't the same superstar Lauren Jackson. This was an older Lauren Jackson, but probably a more grateful and more appreciative Lauren Jackson that was a calming influence on the team, which they needed. In addition, the other key piece was Sammy Whitcomb. Now, if you don't know her story, she is born and bred in Southern California, went to school at Washington, played overseas, mainly Europe, and then went to Australia. And she basically fell in love with the country. Her and her partner, they live in Australia. They got married when same-sex laws changed in Australia and allowed marriages to take place. And Paris is her first Olympic Games, and she is making the most of it. And it has been fun to watch. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Australia got their butts kicked by Nigeria in the first game. They couldn't hold on to the ball. Jada Melbourne and Christy Wallace got brutalized in the backcourt, but it just wasn't them. Everybody played bad except for Alana Smith, and it really had that feeling like their campaign was over even before it started. And then they matched up against Canada. The game started off back and forth, but then at the start of the second quarter, it felt like Canada was about to take control of the game. Around the 6-minute mark or the 5-minute mark, Sandy Brondello subbed in Mariana Tolo. Now, she's a journeyman backup. She's played overseas. She's a good, hard, physical, tough player. And Alana Smith had not been playing well this game. And for my money, Tolo totally turned around that game. And from the second quarter on, they started to get into Canada and dominate. And it was really Tolo who unexpectedly got 16 minutes in that game, 11 points, and it was just all gravy there. The other one that didn't get many minutes in the first game, Kayla George, only played 3.5 minutes the first game. And Brondella played George 19 minutes, and they just both excelled. And that's really when the Opals campaign turned around. And it was great. Like the whole time, Whitcomb's just fist pumping and driving everybody. And then after the game, you saw the team come together. It was just pure relief. And you had a hot mic situation. And I think it was Whitcomb that said, hey, now it's effing France. We need to go get them. And it was all in. And I didn't think they would get France, but there you go. That is sports. They play France the next game. and they control the game, but it's clear they cannot play without Whitcomb off the court, as Brondello has lost confidence in Christy Wallace, so she didn't play versus France and she didn't play versus Canada. But Brondello has kept the faith in Jade Melvin, and it paid off versus Serbia as she went for 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting, and I've got to give it to her. Like, she took her lumps early on in the tournament, but she just seems to get better and better, and it just doesn't knock her confidence. That's what impresses me the most about Jada Melvin. I don't know if the Storm made a good move by trading her to Washington. But the other thing in the game versus Serbia was that Alana Smith played well, going for 22 points of 7 of 13 shooting. And Kayla George, once again, was just big. She had big buckets whenever it seemed like Serbia was going to make a run. Like, she had a big three-pointer just to make sure to keep that distance from Serbia. And then after the game, it was fantastic because Kayla George did the interview with Andrew Gaze. And if you're not aware, Andrew Gaze played for the Seton Hall Pirates, I think, way back in the day. He had a short run with the San Antonio Spurs, maybe a few week contracts, and his dad's like a living legend in Melbourne and used to be the coach of the Melbourne Tigers for years and years. So he's basketball royalty in Australia. After the Australian Boomers won the bronze medal, he was basically in tears in the after show afterwards, just crying because he was so happy about it. And he's a guy that everybody likes. And he did the interview with Kayla George, and you could just tell they were about to cause each other to cry, and it was fantastic. So in my mind, the Australian Opals have already won, as they've avoided catastrophic disaster in this tournament, which would have been not making the quarterfinals or being eliminated in the quarters once again. And let's be honest, the reality is they will probably lose to the US. I mean, anything can happen on the day. They can obviously score. The one concern about them is they have struggled with ball pressure, and you know that is coming from the US team. And if the US team gets steals, that gets them into transition, and before you know it, you're down 20 points, and you're like, what's happened here? The Australian team hope is that they can hold on to the ball. Alana Smith and Magnabor, they hold up inside. Kayla George and Sammy Whitcomb have the games of their lives, and then maybe a little bit of legend action. They can get Lauren Jackson to come in and give them a few minutes and do something spectacular, and that is their path to the greatest upset of all time. Do I think it'll happen? No, but it would be fun if it did, that's for sure. And even though I am an American, I am rooting for that outcome. As a naturalized Australian citizen, I think it would be fun. But now it's over to you. Give me your poison. What are your thoughts? Do the Australians have any chance of upsetting the US in the semifinal game? And am I Benedict Arnold for rooting for the Australian Opals over the US team? Your thoughts, comments, it's all welcome. Have a great night and enjoy the game.